The lights are off, your phone is face down, the room is quiet. Your body is finished for the day, your brain is not. Because now you are standing at a podium. A whole country is listening to you. Then it changes. You are back in an argument that ended yesterday. Except this time you say the perfect thing. This time you win. Then you are sitting in your boss's chair for one day. You finally say it. Then you are in a ring. Thousands of people are watching. You win that too. Then it goes quiet and small. Someone finally looks at you properly. They say the thing you have wanted to hear for months. You have not moved. You are lying in the same bed you got into. And the strange part is the timing. This did not start when your day got hard. It started when your day stopped. So why does your mind get loud at the exact moment everything else goes silent? Most people call these fake scenarios. Researchers have a name for one kind of them. When the scene is a conversation, they call it an imagined interaction. People have been studying them for about 40 years. Researchers list 6 jobs these imagined conversations do. They keep a relationship going. They handle a conflict. They let you practice something before you say it out loud. They help you work out how you actually feel. They let out a feeling that has nowhere else to go. And they stand in for a conversation you cannot have. The shapes repeat more than people expect. There is the stage. You are acting or singing or playing to a crowd. There is the command. You are running a country or leading an army. There is the desk. You have your boss's job for one day and you speak. There is the ring. Somebody is watching you win. And then the quiet ones, which are the most common of all. Someone apologizes. Someone chooses you. Someone finally understands what you meant. There is one thing people get wrong about this, and it matters. They think it means losing your grip on what is real. It does not. Was any of that you? Most people who do this think they are the only one doing it. So if it is this common, what is actually happening in there? Here is the part that surprised me. Nothing switches on at bedtime. Things switch off. And we know which things. Staying awake is not something your brain does by accident. It runs it actively. Small clusters of cells deep in your brain pump out chemicals all day. One cluster releases noradrenaline. Another releases serotonin. Another releases histamine. Together they hold the rest of your brain alert. There is also a switch, and scientists really do call it a flip-flop switch. A small area deep in your brain, the hypothalamus, can turn those clusters down. When it fires, they go quiet. When they fire, it goes quiet. That is why you flip between awake and asleep instead of fading slowly. Something else builds up all day. It is called adenosine. It collects while you are awake and pushes the sleep side of the switch. So you lie down, and the alert chemicals start to fall. And there is an order to what goes quiet. Researchers watched it using electrodes placed inside the human brain. A structure called the thalamus passes on what your senses pick up. It is the gate. It goes quiet first. The thinking parts of your cortex stay active for several minutes longer. So there is a window. The gate is shut. The lights inside are still on. Think of it like a radio that has been playing all day. You never heard it. Everything else was louder. Then the noise stops and the radio is still on. And we know roughly what is playing. There is a set of brain areas that comes alive when you are not busy. Researchers call it the default mode network. One part of it is the hippocampus, which builds scenes out of memory. That is the same equipment you use to remember a real day. So when you invent a night, you are building it out of real parts. That is why the scene feels so detailed. You are not making it from nothing. Which raises the question everyone who does this eventually asks. Is this normal, or is it too much? Researchers tracked thousands of people through their normal days. People were thinking about something other than their task nearly half the time. Almost 47% of waking hours. That is not a disorder. That is just a normal mind. Now, the other end of it. Some people do this so much that it takes over the day. That version has a clinical name and a questionnaire built for it. Researchers ran the first study that checked how common it really is. They looked at more than 1,000 people. 4.2% scored above the line. That sounds like the answer. It is not. When they interviewed those people, only about 60% actually met the bar. so the real estimate came out near 2.5%. The screening number was almost double the true one. That is why the figures you see online run so high. But hold on to what that 2.5% is. It is the far end. It is the version that eats the daytime. The bedtime kind, the kind most people do, sits somewhere in between. And it is much harder to count. There is no cutoff for normal, so there is no clean number for it. What we do have is stranger than a number. In one study, people spoke their thoughts into a recorder in bed. A device on their wrist measured how long they took to fall asleep. The thoughts that best predicted a long wait were not the exciting ones. They were worrying about sleep and plain problem solving. The film in your head might not be the thing keeping you awake. The quiet worry underneath it might be. That study was small. It was people who already struggled to sleep, so we should be careful with it. But it points somewhere, and it leads to a harder question. If this is normal, why is it so hard to stop? Part of the answer is what the scenes are made of. They are not random. They track what you want and have not got. In one set of studies, researchers made a need stronger in people. Those people then produced more scenes about that exact need. The lonely one imagines being seen. The overlooked one imagines being chosen. Now, you have probably heard why the unfinished ones supposedly stick. The idea is that your brain remembers unfinished things better than finished ones. People have repeated that for nearly 100 years. In 2025, researchers pooled 38 studies on it. Across all of them, unfinished tasks were remembered about the same. Not better. It showed up in some setups and vanished in others. So it is not the solid rule the textbooks describe. Something else did hold up. People go back to finish things. The pull is not memory, the pull is completion. So the argument replays because you want to finish it, not because you cannot forget it. And there is a harder finding underneath all of this. Researchers had people picture an ideal future in detail. Those people came out with less energy to go and get it. Not more, less. Picturing the win seems to hand you some of the feeling of winning. And that feeling was the thing that was supposed to make you move. The radio keeps playing. It plays the song you most want to hear. That is exactly why it is hard to turn off. There is one more piece, and it is the heaviest one. One study looked at 90 people who do this a great deal. 82% of them hid it. Not from strangers, from almost everybody. The scenes were not the painful part. The hiding was. So what does all of this actually cost? Here is the honest answer, and it is not that any of us are broken. In that same study, 98% said they never confused the scene with real life. They always knew. That was never the problem. The cost is smaller and more specific than that. It is sleep. Every extra minute we spend in there is a minute we are not asleep. Not because anything is damaged, because the mind is awake and busy. And there is something worth saying for the people who like it. Some of us are not stuck at all. Some of us go back to a scene we have built before. We would rather be there than asleep, and that is a choice. But it is still a trade. It helps to know we are making one. One small trial found something useful about that trade. Trying to stop the thoughts did not work well. Moving your attention onto something else that is mildly interesting worked better. This radio does not have an off switch, it has a dial. Most of us never learned we were allowed to touch it. So go back to the beginning. Lights off, phone down, room quiet. Nothing switched on tonight. The noise just stopped. I want to know which one plays for you. The argument you finally win. The room where somebody notices you. Or the version of you who is already the person you are becoming. Tell me in the comments. If this made something make more sense, subscribe. That is what this channel is for.